Hi, welcome to FreightWaves Now on a Thursday, bringing it to you live again with three market experts, bringing it to you today in weather, what in the world's going on with it, and this thing called the polar vortex. I think we'd all like to learn a little bit more about this. Also, Jeff Seibenhener, I got it right, Sieb, he is bringing it to us, market expert in technology. What is going on with passwords and what can we do about them? And finally, the inaugural debut of Jesse Cohen, our market expert in air cargo. So, without further ado, Nick, tell us, I'm going to throw you a curveball here,
Sure,
Nick. Tell me, where is the worst possible weather in the United States right now?
The worst possible weather? Well, it's winter, so it is snowing up in the Northeast, but not everywhere. This is not
bad there.
Yeah, it's not as bad as the last couple of storms, but most of the snow today will be up through New York, like in the Catskills, the Adirondacks, up through those areas. A lot of heavy rain along the I-95 corridor up in the Northeast. It's going to be could be some localized flooding and road closures there.
Wow.
And one other spot.
Oh, another bad spot.
Don't you want to hear about it?
Yeah, I do, very much so.
One other bad spot, not real heavy as far as freight volumes, but anyone that has to go up into the UP of Michigan, that's up through the Marquette area, a lot of heavy lake effect snow there all day today, and strong winds too. So that's going to be another trouble spot. A lot of strong winds out in California too, but as far as precipitation, rain and snow, it's all across the Great Lakes and the Northeast. The rest of the country is pretty quiet.
Well, so that makes us feel better that we're not in those areas, knowing where this weather is bad. Now, make us feel bad. Tell us where the weather is great and delightful out there.
Well, there are a lot of countries seeing nice weather, but there's something else we have to talk about that you mentioned. The polar vortex.
Oh, okay. So
it's been in the news a lot in the past couple of years.
Is this, so it has to do with the jet stream.
It has to do with the jet stream, and it also has to do with a big area of low pressure that sits over both poles for our hemisphere. Of course, it's the North Pole. And we've heard a lot about it in the last several years. It's gotten a lot more hype in the media.
Does it have to do with El Nino?
Not really.
The
polar vortex is something that is around all the time. It's been around for a long time. We've only kind of heard about it in recent years, but it was actually given that name by scientists and meteorologists, I think, back in the 1950s.
Oh, really?
Right. So, it's been around a while, but it's a big area of low pressure that sits in the upper atmosphere, up at about 50, 60, 70,000 feet, like way above where the planes fly. Right above the North Pole, in our case. And that's so it kind of keeps all the cold air, especially in the winter, all the cold air bottled up across the North Pole. However, sometimes, so it kind of keeps all that cold air gated into that area, so to speak.
Okay.
But sometimes that gate breaks open. And usually the way that happens is that the air gets warmer in that area. The stratospheric warming is what we call it.
And it pushes.
That kind of breaks open the gate, and then you get these lobes. The polar vortex itself is not moving, but little lobes, little pieces of the cold air break off the polar vortex and come right down in the United States, through Canada and into the U.S., usually across the Great Lakes, the eastern U.S. That's what's going to happen tonight and tomorrow. We're talking about across the Great Lakes, towards Chicago.
Is happen?
Yep, Chicago included, Milwaukee, up the Ohio River Valley. We're talking about wind chills. This is what it's going to feel like. 20 to 40 degrees below zero. Dangerous wind chills. So frostbite can set in really quickly if you're not dressed warm enough.
Yeah, I would say so. Is it true that the polar vortex is really slow moving and can hover over an area for a super long time?
Yes. These little pieces that break off the polar vortex, they don't get into they don't move quickly, and it could take days or even a week before it gets from the North Pole into Canada, and then another few days before it even gets into the United States. And it can sit over one region for 2 or 3 days before things kind of start to moderate and get back to normal. Yeah, that's very true.
Is it hard or easy to predict? Is it just like predicting the wind or anything else? Just predicting the weather is hard?
It's a little tougher, but there are meteorologists and scientists that keep an eye on it. And so they've gotten better at predicting these little lobes breaking off in the last several years. It's become easier to predict, but Mother Nature still throws us curveballs sometimes.
Indeed.
That's
yes.
for sure.
Well, we're bringing it to you like the most up-to-date models and information, at least such as what we have available to us in 2019. Thank you, Nick Austin, as always. And now, bringing on Jeff Seibenhener, market expert in technology. What do you got for us today, Sieb?
Well, when Nick talks about chill, that's weather related. But for me, a technologist, when you start talking about data breaches, that's what puts a chill up my spine. So
nice segue.
So earlier this week, I actually reported on the Collection 1 data breach to our Sonar subscribers, but I thought it was important enough to now relay this information to our viewers as well. So what the Collection 1 data breach is really a breach of breaches. And what I mean by that is that the database that was collected in this breach was from 2,000 previous breaches. So a breach of breaches, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like I'm falling into the Matrix or something. I don't know. So what is, like, let's pull that out a little bit. What are the ramifications of that? A lot more exposed data, or?
It is actually, and the Collection 1 data breach was discovered by a security researcher named Troy Hunt.
Okay.
So he basically found the breach on a public site. So it was a cloud hosted public site, which was later then put down to a hacker site. But here's what makes this really, really unique.
Okay.
This is the largest by volume publicly exposed data breach in the history of the world.
When did this happen?
This happened last week, I think last Thursday. Actually.
Yikes.
Yeah. So it's also the second largest data breach by volume, not publicly, but privately, with 2013 Yahoo breach being the number one.
Gosh, for as big as that is, I'm surprised we haven't heard more about it kind of in the media. Well, I'm glad we're bringing it, in the media right now. So what do we have some takeaways, some recommendations?
Yeah, actually, and a little bit more information on this. So over 773 million email addresses were captured in this breach. Over 23 million unique passwords were captured in this breach. Actually, Troy Hunt has a site called I Have Been Pwned, and that's PWNED.com. You can go out to that site, you can put in your email address, you can put in your password. It will tell you whether you've been part of these breaches or not.
Okay. Pwned, password. Owned.
Yes.
Okay, so I've been owned. Like they got my password. Okay. Well, what should we do about this disturbing news?
So here's what I'm recommending. Go out to all of your accounts right now and change your passwords. Start with the most critical, like bank accounts, because what happens is people reuse their passwords across multiple accounts.
Guilty.
So then hackers can then cross-reference to these other accounts. So go out, change your password. I recommend a strong password, which means that you have at least 12 characters. Mix up uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols when doing that. Never, ever use your social security number, date of birth, name, any personal information like that.
Wow, okay, and this is an example of, kind of a short password, according to those rules.
Not quite 12, no.
The problem with passwords, Jeff, is that, I can never remember them when I do that, and then I'm always asking them to, I forgot my password. Are there any tips or tricks about that? I mean, you can't write it down on a piece of paper, you can't put it in your Dropbox, because then that'll be exposed. I mean,
there are actually password management softwares that you can use. You can also rely on two-level authentication. For example, in an application, you have the bio, right? So what you would have is your password that you entered in. You would have the thumbprint bio that would then be the second level of authentication.
Thanks so much, Jeff, for bringing it for us here each and every day from a tech perspective, at least. That was really some awesome stuff. All right, and now we're bringing on market expert making his inaugural debut, Jesse Cohen, bringing us some air cargo. What do you got up? What do you got up your sleeve?
So thanks very much, Chad. So what we want to talk about today is the China-U.S. air cargo market and the ocean cargo market. It's a huge cargo market, and some very interesting trends that we're seeing and what they mean going forward and for 2019.
Okay, tell our viewers what we've got pulled up with air cargo and what is that cross comparing to?
So what we've got here are two indices from Sonar. So the blue index, the blue wall, so to speak, is about 18 months worth of air cargo rate trending from Hong Kong to North America. The orange line is the FreightWaves Baltic Index,
right,
which is ocean container rates from China to North America West Coast. So these things typically will work a little bit in parallel, but we've got some trends here that we want to talk about. First of all, on the air cargo side, we have a very nice peak in the fourth quarter in terms of rates. That basically, where rates essentially doubled or more for a short period of time.
So have we've got obviously, I guess, a seasonality kind of pattern going on
and this
here.
Is the fourth quarter seasonality with big rate increases over that full quarter is very, very common. It's traditional in the Hong Kong market. There's years of weak demand, there's years of stronger demand, and the rate increases vary. But in 2018, the interesting story is this peak was wider. It started in the third quarter, but if you look at the orange line, which is the ocean cargo, the ocean freight rates, those started moving up in the third quarter, July, and about 4 weeks later, the air cargo rates followed. So it was earlier for air cargo, and we really think this has to do with pulling forward inventories to make sure that they hit the U.S. prior to any tariffs, any trade wars, anything that could potentially raise the price or make the product uncompetitive in the market.
I've got a question. So you say that they work, together, but here during this seasonality peak and at the end of the Q4 of 2017, we see this air peaking, but we see the maritime actually for a large dip of it going down. And then, of course, here in July, when actually I think we were beginning, at least in September, to have some softening in 2018. But now this is like, well, going in tandem and parallel with rates of air cargo. So what do we explain that or attribute that to?
So I think the air cargo line, this is traditional seasonality.
Okay.
Air carriers generally are used to, with basically we're shipping for Christmas, we're shipping electronics, we're shipping toys, we're shipping anything that can possibly fit on an airplane that's manufactured in China to North America. And you get into, the economy was good, the stock market was good in 2017, and that typically drives a really good cargo peak season. On the ocean freight side, here I think this is really more the threat of tariffs, the trade wars that's really driving the ocean numbers up and driving the air numbers up earlier.
Just driving them both up.
Yeah,
and it was a time of capacity. That's interesting.
So here we are now in 2019. We're in the first quarter. We're beyond the peak season. Typically, rates fall on the air cargo side. We can see that. They've fallen down here, showing $3.52, $3.52. Ocean rates haven't fallen so much.
Right, if anything, ticking back up, aren't they?
Yeah, they're ticking back up, and what we have coming up in the next 2 weeks is Chinese New Year, starting February 5th, running for about 2 weeks to the 19th. And from
is that still projected to be as big of a deal this year? There's all these worries about the Asian market.
Yeah, so I mean, we're seeing in general the more press about the weakening of the market in November. Actually, air cargo overall globally was down a little bit year over year. So I think there's a lot of concerns. They're not just air cargo concerns. They're ocean cargo, they're trucking cargo concerns. But I think what the go forward opportunity we have for customers from an air perspective in Chinese New Year is freighters typically get pulled out of the market. They're flying elsewhere. They're getting maintained, and you have passenger flights, low demand, factories are closed for the most part, and you have an opportunity typically to work the spot market if you have that kind of cargo that can fit on a passenger flight and possibly get some very, very good deals during those 2 weeks of Chinese New Year.
What are the kinds of cargo that are often associated with being, good for air?
So, I mean, typically, electronics, automotive, you have toys, any new products coming out, perishables, pharmaceuticals typically are heavy movers via air. A lot of e-commerce moves by air. So, there's just a lot of things. I mean, at any point in time, any product that's in short supply can get upgraded to air.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I know you've got another chart for us too.
Absolutely. So what we have here, and this is really a testament to the good work done here by the FreightWaves market expert team. We've got a rate that shows the DAT rates from Los Angeles to Dallas, the truckload rates, going back to even before 2016, and comparing that.
Yeah, and to some viewers who may not be familiar with some of the terminology, but van means, it means dry van. Full truckload not rates. Reefer.
Not reefer, not flatbed.
Okay.
So this is comparing this with the Hong Kong North America air rates, the ones that we just looked at. And here, you can really see a very heavy correlation.
Very much so.
The two lines move together. The white and the green lines move together, the green being the air, the white being the trucking rates. And what we're seeing here is
an opportunity. And it goes back all the way to 2015.
What we're seeing really is an opportunity to use this, to use the air rates and the ocean rates out of Asia, out of China and Hong Kong, as a leading indicator to project possible demand opportunities, pricing opportunities either up or down, for pricing out of Los Angeles to the mid part of the country, in this case Dallas.
So we're projecting like continued growth in air cargo?
Well, I think what we're saying is we can look at rates out of Asia and use those to project pricing, or to help project pricing for trucking out of some of the West Coast gateways and out of the ports. In terms of air cargo, I think the forecast this year is small growth, very low single-digit growth.
Okay.
We are seeing some negative year-over-year. That started in November. We're about to get full year December data from the International Air Transport Association, so we'll be able to update you on that. But there are concerns. Generally speaking, when the economies are bullish, when stock markets are high, we typically find air cargo does very, very well. When people are a little bit more conservative, they're holding back, that's when they'll make the decision to use surface modes.
All right. Well, thank you, Jesse. Fantastic job on his inaugural debut. And we're bringing it to you right now in all things land, sea, and now even air. So stay tuned with us every single business day. We're coming to you at 4 o'clock on FreightWaves.com and on Twitter, where you can check us out on our social media and never miss a single episode of what in the world's going on right now in all things logistics. Thanks for tuning in again, and we will see you tomorrow on Friday as we project not only what's going on right now, but also throughout the weekend. This is always a special time. So it's my favorite time of day, 4 o'clock. Thanks for being here, and don't worry, be happy.